Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Hey everyone, it's Jory. Before we dive into this amazing conversation with Amy Lacey, who, by the way, I've been waiting so long to bring this episode live to you. There's so much delicious wisdom in there. I can't wait for you to hear it. But before we begin, I did want to remind you that this week, Thursday, May 6th, is the launch of my 8-week live course, The Journey Forward Method. In this 8 weeks, I'm going to give you all the tools to help you get unstuck and what is not working in your life, and provide you with the resources, my proprietary frameworks, the tools, introduction to mindfulness, meditation, and how you can create new habits and new patterns to get you to be living the life you want to be living. So if you're interested, and including all these amazing bonuses that you're never, ever going to be able to get, this is the first time launching this course, and I just am giving it so much to you. Please check out the link in the bio. I can't wait to journey forward with you. And I really hope that you love today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of Journey Forward with Jory Rose. I am so happy to have Amy Lacey here today with us. We met a while back, gosh, pre-COVID feels like forever ago, but back at a conference, and you had that energy of, I just want to get to know you. I want to hang out. I just want to be your friend because you have this infectious energy. And I'm so excited to be able to be talking with you today because it feels like it's been a really long time, and it has. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Well, thank you for doing this show, and thank you for having me on because I'm really honored. It has been a long time, but I love going to conferences, and just recently, I was able to go to one like 2 weeks ago in Arizona. It's the first time I've traveled in almost a year. I was really hesitant, but they assured all of us that they were going to be very cautious. And I was blessed to get the vaccine, whether you believe in the vaccine or not. I took it because I have autoimmune. But the conference when we landed, they did a test. You had to have test results with you. So not just the swab up your nose to your brain. Have you had that yet?
I actually have not had a COVID test. And I also have my first vaccine. So I might have skipped that whole, sign of the times of getting the swab to your brain.
Yeah, well, I guess it varies. I've had it done quite a few times, so it varies on who's administering it. But yeah, there's 2 different tests. So you have the one that takes a couple days, and then the one that's the swab in your mouth, or the back of your throat. And then you have the one that goes up to your brain through your nostrils. And they did both. And so I felt really confident in the course. But my point is, wow, I've done a lot of virtual courses. I've had the Warrior Women Summit that I launched in May that we did. That was amazing. You had yours, which was
yes,
like it was amazing. I'm sorry that I missed that one. I would have loved to have been a part of it. But it felt really good to be back in person. So I guess my point is we met at a course that wasn't virtual. And I would encourage people, when the time feels right, and it has to obviously feel right, to get back out there and meet people. But virtually, I think I've done a pretty good job of stepping it up and engaging with people through different conferences.
Yeah,
so I'm proud of myself for that, but there's nothing like getting to hug somebody and meeting in person.
I miss hugging people so much. And, isn't it amazing just the in real life experience? I think we've done an amazing job as a world to shift to virtual connection. And it's not a substitution. It's just what we need to do in this moment. And yeah, I've actually been contemplating when I'm going to relaunch my women's retreats that I lead, of when it's going to feel comfortable. So it's probably going to be this fall, and I think we can do it well. But Amy, one of the things that I was so inspired by you when we met is your journey is not only inspiring from a health perspective, but it's inspiring from a business perspective. So I haven't even really introduced you yet and what you do. And we just jumped right in and talking, and I love it. But you have built an amazing company. and in the process have not become, just successful with it, but have healed yourself in your autoimmune and your health. So tell everybody what it is that you have created, this amazing product, which I actually have some in my freezer. I should, I'm going to post some photos. But tell us your journey and what you do and how you got to where you are. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah, I love sharing my story. So thank you for allowing me to share it with your audience. I love it because I feel, honestly, and you hear people say this all the time, but I swear, if you knew my whole journey, and we don't have enough time to talk about it, if I can do it, anybody can, I promise you. So, I mean, I think I talk a little bit about my childhood now. I never used to, but I do now, because I think I realized through everything that it's such a big part of the whole story. But I grew up with a single mom, and then I had some troubled times as a teenager. And in your profession, you probably have dealt with
yes,
like me back then. But I landed like in foster care for a short time. Then I went to live on a farm. And I tell that story a little bit more in depth, depending on the interview that I'm doing. I'll keep it short today, though. But the point is, I learned how to be very scrappy. And I learned that, a lot of people said no to me, and no became like the next opportunity for me. And I took that into my life and my business. But I also learned that I never quite healed from the trauma that I experienced. So I had a pretty traumatic experience as a preteen that really probably launched me into being a runaway. And I think what saved me is that I never got into drugs. I never was sexually promiscuous. So I ended up being able to go to this farm and really heal, or at least I thought I healed. And I came back to live with my mom, and who had remarried, and my stepdad, and they're still married today. And I'm very close to them today, but there was a time where I wasn't, but I never healed from that trauma. So fast forward, I'm very faith-based. I wasn't always. I grew up in an atheist home. But after becoming faith-based, I realized as a little girl, I used to pray for a family. Like I wanted that family. And when I met my husband, he had that family. He was one of 4 kids. His parents were still married. And I was like, okay, this is the guy I'm going to marry. So my prayers were answered. And I'm still married today to that same man. It's wonderful. 23 years. We have 3 kids.
Oh,
but
beautiful.
My kids got to the age where, and this is like a new story. I don't share this story. I just recently shared this story because I realized I never healed from the trauma. And when my kids hit that age where that traumatic event happened to me at age 11, I started feeling it again, and I started getting sick. So
isn't it amazing? Can I just pause you there for one second? Because as a therapist, I actually see this more often than people would realize. The body remembers. And the body internalizes that trauma, and it can easily, if not processed through, get stuck and stay stuck. And we think we healed because it isn't prominent in our awareness. But that doesn't mean the body has healed it. And we can get re-triggers of those traumas, and the body can respond in a way as if it's right now.
Exactly.
It's fascinating. What we store in our body is so much more than we give our bodies credit for. Our emotions, our fears, our anxieties, our traumas. All of it is going to go somewhere.
Yeah. And I really did a lot of therapy. My mom was diligent in tough love, but she was diligent in getting me treatment and help. But I never fully, I know now I never fully healed from that experience. So when my kids became that same age, all of a sudden, and my 2 oldest are 14 months apart. So they're like Irish twins. So when they both became around that age, all of a sudden I started getting really sick. And it was like overnight. I had autoimmune. I couldn't get out of bed, and I had so much inflammation in my body. And I literally spent like 9 months in bed. I had multiple surgeries.
Oh my goodness.
But it wasn't until I got a pulmonary embolism and almost died. So I got a blood clot that and my youngest was only 2, and he had to go stay with my in-laws. And that was like rock bottom as a mom. And my husband was really busy in his job and in trying to take care of his business. And so I just felt very, very low, like the lowest I had ever felt, even lower than as a teen or a teenager. And I just remember thinking, like, they deserve so much better. They deserve a mom that can actually function. And one day I was like, okay, enough is enough. Like, I'm done feeling sorry for myself. I'm on all these medications. I was on Coumadin, which is warfarin, which is used for, rat poison. They tell me legally shouldn't say that but it's not a good drug. It has terrible side effects. I was on Plaquenil, which is the drug that everybody was talking about with COVID early on. And I was on Wellbutrin for depression. You name it. I was on like 5 different meds. I was 40 years old. I have these 3 kids. My youngest is 2. He's no longer living with me. He's at my in-laws. It was a horrible, horrible time for me.
Wow.
And I decided, okay, enough's enough. I got to get off these medications because the side effects are worse than the actual medication.
Can I ask you a question there for a second?
Yeah.
You're now able to recognize that you got sick at this age that your children were, that re-triggered your own traumas. What were the medical diagnoses that people, because I think people, listening might be curious around, what was that physically manifesting in your body with the autoimmune, if you don't mind me asking?
So I was diagnosed at first with connective tissue disorder, and then later with lupus and Sjogren's. And so I still have active Sjogren's. The lupus is, every time I get my blood work done, it is, when I was pre-diabetic, because I gained a lot of weight, which was caused by depression. I was also diagnosed as depressed, which I was. So yeah, all of those, manifested into this big, basically overnight, all of a sudden I was just like bedridden and sick, and the pulmonary embolism just kind of was the topper on it. And so then I was having to go to the INR clinic like 3 times a week and get my blood to be regulated. And it was just a big old mess. And I often refer to it as a mess. And one day, I don't know if it was through like the power of prayer or what, but I was like seriously thinking about suicide. And I was like, how could I even do this to my family? Like, I can't do this. I need to get help, and I need to help myself. And I met with a guy by the name of Rob Wolf, who was, I used to do CrossFit before I got sick. And he was the first CrossFit gym in our little town in Northern California. But he also wrote a book about paleo. And it was a big deal back then, paleo. And I went to him and asked him for help. And he said, you've got to let's cut out a bunch of things out of your diet. I think you can control this with diet, and you're going to feel so much better. And your body is really attacking itself with inflammation. So that's when I really learned about it, because the doctors, they don't have time to go through it all. They just put me on Plaquenil, right?
Right.
Let's go on Plaquenil. Let's put you on a water pill. So that was their answer. And I understand it. They don't have enough time to go through it. But Rob really encouraged me to eliminate all these foods and slowly add them back. And I realized that the inflammation was coming from grains for me. And one of the things I did with my kids prior to all of this happening is we used to have Friday family fun night, which was pizza and movies, or pizza and games. And back then it was like Uno and Candyland and stuff like that, and Clue. And so when I started eliminating my diet and slowly adding back in foods that I realized that I could eat, and eliminating trigger foods like grains, like white flour, all white flour, rice for me is a trigger. It's not a trigger for everybody, but it's a trigger for me. I wanted to bring back some normalcy to them, to their life. And so I was looking for a pizza recipe online that I could make, that we could have family fun night again. And I found this cauliflower pizza recipe online. Now, this is 2010 is when I really got sick. I had my last surgery in 2012. So this is about 2013. Okay. And I'm trying to just I've slowly rebuilt my life back. I'm now changing up what we're eating, all of that. And I'm wanting to find a way to bring back pizza night again and do the family fun night again. So I found this cauliflower pizza crust recipe online and I decided to try it. It was a straight up mess. I mean, cauliflower wasn't a vegetable that I ever used. And I am going to introduce myself in my business. I'm getting there. But it wasn't a vegetable I had in my house. I thought it was, to me, it was white. So it wasn't a real vegetable. And it was like the last vegetable standing in a veggie tray when you go to a party. Like nobody did it. So I was a little hesitant about this recipe.
Well, because no one knows how to prepare good cauliflower.
Yeah. And so this is before, cauliflower craze, when the only thing in the grocery store was a head of cauliflower. We didn't have all these other brands. And I perfected the cauliflower pizza recipe. Well, during this time I decided, and this is one of the things that I would say to all of your viewers too, is your business and your life expands as you expand inside, right? As you grow inside, your business will grow or your life will grow. And I knew I needed to work on myself. I had been to a lot of counselors, and this is no offense to you at all, but I wanted somebody like a life coach. I wanted to move forward, not rehearse what had happened. I wanted to move forward. So I started.
By the way, I love that you name that, because that's exactly how I work as a therapist, is because people don't want to just heal their past and revisit the past. People want to know, okay, great. What do I do right now in this moment? What are the tools to get through this moment and help me get to where I'm going? I mean, that's ultimately what the journey forward that I teach is all about, because I think that's where therapy gets kind of a bad rap at times. Of, I don't want to rehash how I got here. And that's only a small piece of it. And so I'm glad that you recognized that I need guidance in how to move forward.
Yeah. And by the way, I love that you've registered that. So kudos to you from a business perspective that you registered that. Because
thanks to my business coach, who in the middle of our coaching session, in a group coaching session, when she helped me come up with the journey forward, she goes, I'm not going to tell this to many people, and I don't, but you need to register that. And I
saw that you had done that. I said, good girl. She's smart in the business department. I had to learn that the hard way. But yeah, so I wanted to move forward. So I took Martha Beck's coaching program, and I was starting to get really strong and healed. I mean, I wasn't just eating cauliflower pizza. I was eating all grain-free foods. I lost some weight. I started getting really strong. And so Can I
ask a quick question for there before, just to pause on that, because I think many people have this mindset around that's great, and that doesn't sound like it would taste very good. Right. I think there's such this misconception that we can make substitutions, but we're going to be compromising flavor or integrity around our habits. And to me, it purely is a mindset shift.
It is a mindset shift, but I will say the reason why cauliflower is now $1 billion industry is because the vegetable itself is genius. It's bland, so it takes on any flavors you put with it. And so through this process of becoming a life and health coach and paying it forward, which is one of the 5 P's of my business, I talk about paying it forward. I basically created the cauliflower industry. I launched this product. So I started having healthy happy hours with my clients. So now I felt like I healed myself, and I wanted to pay it forward to other people, not just autoimmune, but people that were struggling.
Your autoimmune challenges really improved once you shifted to that diet.
Completely eliminated all medication. Completely off all medication.
I mean, that's amazing, Amy, that all those medications you were on.
I felt like Wonder Woman. Our family just went and saw that movie not too long ago. But I felt like I just needed to pay it forward. Like it was night and day. And this is over a few years, right? This is a lot of work on my side. And I was on those medications for quite some time. but eliminating the elimination diet allowed me to lose 48 pounds. It allowed me to eliminate a lot of inflammation in my body. We all, by the way, have inflammation in our body, whether you're diagnosed with an autoimmune or not. You have some form of inflammation, and it wreaks havoc on COVID. Like, that's part of the problem. So our country is, as you know, suffers from obesity as opposed to other countries. And so it's something, inflammation is definitely a big problem. And a lot of it comes from what's in our food, right? What we eat, and a lot of processed foods. And so I definitely started having these healthy happy hours where we were serving healthy food. We were doing zucchini noodles before zucchini noodles were a thing. And one of my clients encouraged me to go to farmer's market. And I thought, okay, this will be fun with my kids. We'll go to farmer's market. And another health coach and I took the cauliflower pizza crust and the zucchini noodles, which we called zoodles, to farmer's market. And pretty soon they were selling out before farmer's market would hit. And I realized that I needed more than a cottage license. I needed to find help, a co-packer.
And you were just doing these in your home, just making these cauliflower pizza crusts.
I had a cottage license, and before farmers.
What does that mean?
It's a license that allows you to make the food in your house and sell it at a farmer's market type of place. And so I realized that there was a need. A couple stores locally picked it up. I'm from a little town called Chico, California, in Northern California. And so it started booming, and I thought, okay, there's nothing on the market like this. Let me try to take it online. And I had done a story brand course. Okay, that's another thing I would tell your clients, that if you do have a service or product-based business, I highly recommend, or you want to, I highly recommend either taking Donald Miller's course, Story Brand, or just reading the book Story Brand by Donald Miller. He also came out with a brand new book just recently, but Story Brand is what really launched us online. And it's the basic idea is selling your product through your customers' eyes, through your customers' stories. So making your customer the hero. So telling your customers stories and selling your product through their stories. So it worked beautifully. I had a client, her name was Jessie, and she had lost a bunch of weight, but more importantly, she was eating our crust because her daughter, Kenzie, was autistic, nonverbal autism. And Jessie's like, okay, the doctor just put her on a low carb diet. By the way, low carb was never the intention for me. It's just that when you eat grain free, it happens to be low carb. Carbs and a lot of, white flour and all of that. So Jessie's like, I think Kenzie loves pizza. I think she'll eat your crust. Can I try some? So I sent her some. She lived about an hour away from us and just kept sending them to her for like 7 months. And then one day I got a call from her and she's like, you're never going to believe it, but Kenzie is now verbal and she's ready to go to school with an aide, like regular school. And I was so excited for Jessie. I'm like, oh, I want to come up and visit you. And she's like, and by the way, Amy, Kenzie won't eat unless I sit down and eat with her. And at this point, they were eating like 2 of our crusts a day. So they were using it as a substitute for bread. So she had taco shells and pizza, beyond pizza. And she said, I lost 169 pounds this last 7 months eating low carb. And eating your food like twice a day. And I was like in shock. So we went out there and we took a bunch of pictures and told the story. We put it on Facebook. And if you know anything about Facebook and Facebook ads, you can't do before and afters and you can't run an ad to it. I didn't know that, but I learned that. So we just told Kenzie's story, and that story of Jessie and Kenzie went viral online. And we sold more in January of 2017 than we had the entire year of 2016.
How did you even, I'm so amazed at the medical healing through food. Yes. I think that it's huge. And we look at, like you said, in our country, we've got so many emotional challenges as a result of inflammation, right? It's not just the physical. And to be able to look at, well, what are we putting in our body that's fueling us or that is shutting us down? So, on that hand, I could just, talk for hours with you about the healing mechanisms through food, but I'm also fascinated with like logistically, how did you go from making this in your home and selling it to your friends and bringing it to farmers market to then creating more in 1 month? Like, did you have production? Like, how did you do that? Because you didn't seek out to build a business. And by the way, you haven't said the name of your company, your product, because it's such a brilliant name.
Well, I am the founder of Cali'flour Foods. So it was built in California.
So awesome. I love the branding.
Flour is Flour. We tagged the hashtag the new white flour. So Cali'flour Foods. So it was never, people often say cauliflower foods. It's Cali'flour Foods, because the intention was to go beyond cauliflower like we did at Farmers Market. But I only had so much money to dedicate. Once I found a kitchen that I rented. So it went from my house to a kitchen that I rented and all the licensing. I had this is a crazy story, but it's true. I had one person helping me, and it was my esthetician. She used to do facials. And when I got Sjogren's, which is dry eyes, I could no longer wear mascara. So I got eyelashes put on. And I wanted to do that just to feel pretty again, because I couldn't wear any kind of eye makeup. I didn't have any eye makeup at all on my eyes. No, nothing. And so I did get lashes. And my doctor didn't want me to put lashes on, but I did. And Jimmy was my esthetician, spelled like Jimi Hendrix, but she's a female. And so I would lay there for a couple hours and we would talk about things. And she ended up getting carpal tunnel and having to shut her business down. And I said, well, why don't you come and be a health coach? Because she was really health conscious. I said, come and be a health coach with me. And so when the cauliflower thing started taking off, I said, can you pivot and help me with cauliflower? Because I really need somebody that knows what they're doing, that can help me, that has my back, that I trust. So she was doing a lot of the behind the scenes type of stuff. And when we blew up and that story went viral, she was packing it with her husband in her garage. I mean, it was crazy times. We had to hire a co-packer. So the guy that we rented a kitchen from, he was actually a baker by trade. And I taught him what we were doing and asked him if he could help us make it. Now that's a mistake, because that's a trademark recipe secret. It's not a trademark. You cannot trademark a recipe, but that's a recipe secret. Like Colonel Sanders, you don't know their recipe. Coca-Cola, it's like locked in a vault. So this guy knew my recipe, which is great, because he never used
compromise the integrity of that.
He didn't compromise the integrity, but I would definitely advise people to be careful. And I got lucky on that one. Not so lucky later on, because I kept trusting people. And I did trust somebody that is currently making our same product, but that's a whole nother story that I legally can't even go into. However, I ended up hiring him. He ended up helping us. Jimmy and I were just running ragged. And I mean, she was a health coach behind the scenes, but she was helping me with cauliflower. So it wasn't easy at all. Yeah. And many nights I was crying. I mean, who cries when they're selling a ton? Sometimes you do, when you don't know how to get past it and you're up. I remember one time the kitchen got shut down that we rented for a different reason altogether. And we had like 1,200 orders. And we had to rent a kitchen in different areas because not a lot of kitchens were available. So we were traveling to other kitchens, using them for as long as we could. And I spent 48 hours without sleep making cauliflower pizza crust.
Oh my gosh.
With Jimmy's husband, because they had little kids. So he came with me and we made it together. And I remember he was driving back to Chico, and we were in Lincoln, California. So like an hour and a half away. And it was like 4:00 in the morning. We had been up 2 days straight. And I'm like, oh my God. Are you sure you can
I had like some vision of like some I Love Lucy episode or something where you're like completely delirious and just like
delirious. And I was talking to him going, please stay awake. I'm going to talk to you to stay awake. But then I was falling asleep. And I know why they use sleep deprivation in prisons, because it makes you crazy. Like 48 hours without sleep, we were crazy, but we got those orders out. I mean, there are so many stories like that. But then eventually we just kept growing and we kept figuring it out. And I remember another funny story that just blew our business up. It was May of 2017. And for all of you that have a business, again, product or service, you probably already know this, but I didn't know it. I happened to be listening to a Donald Miller podcast, actually, and it was The Power of Email by Jeff Walker. And I called Jimmy. It was a Friday. It was May 20th. I called Jimmy and I said, we're not sending emails. We're collecting emails. Every time we sell a pizza crust, we get their email because it's all e-commerce. The business was all e-commerce. We were in 2 little local grocery stores. The rest was e-commerce. I said, and by May, we had done just over $1 million in sales, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. So we are like.
How long did it take you to get to that $1 million in sales? And I mean, that's a phenomenal, I mean, aside from the health journey, like that's a phenomenal business journey.
Well, in 2016, we ended that year negative. So the reason why we were negative is we were only at Farmers Market in a couple stores. And by now I'm doing all of the licensing, all of the packaging, I'm creating new SKUs. It was a lot of money going out and not a lot of money coming in because Farmers Market was, maybe $600 a week. It wasn't that much. And so January, we did 124,000 in sales off of Jesse's story. And there was no other cauliflower products out there, right? We were the first. So
wow,
there were other products out there. They called themselves a veggie pizza that used cauliflower, and now they call themselves a cauliflower, but they were not called a cauliflower pizza crust, and we were. So by now it's May and we're booming, and we've got, the co-packer helping us like crazy. And I tell Jimmy, we need to send an email to all the people that have bought our product the last few months. Let's send an email to them. I just listened to Jeff Walker, and email is super powerful and we should start utilizing it. So we sent a recipe and we sent like a discount code where we offered like 20% off. And Jimmy, it was Friday night at like 9:30 and she's like, sure, let's do it. So we wrote the email together. We launched it in the middle of the night, like around midnight Pacific time. Well, the next day, my son, my oldest, played lacrosse and we were going to the Bay Area for a tournament. So we left at like 6 a.m. And we use a platform, we still do, called Shopify. And Shopify was attached to my phone. So every time a pizza crust would sell, my phone would ding. And so my phone was in my purse. It was like 6:30 in the morning. And my husband's like, what's that noise? And we kept hearing ding, 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 ding. I mean, it was going nuts. And he goes, I think it's coming from your purse. And I pulled out my phone and I looked and I was like, oh my goodness, we have sold $36,000 worth of pizza crust in a matter of, since we launched the email. It's going crazy. And by the end of that day, we had done $86,000 in pizza crust.
Oh my gosh.
On one email. So we had to rent a warehouse.
How did you, now you've got the logistics of how do you produce $86,000 worth of pizza crust?
The co-packer was amazing because he just got all of his people in there and started, he had people that were bakers and he basically kind of compromised his own business to help us with ours, but we rented a warehouse and we completely rented a warehouse with a freezer and completely started a fulfillment center. And I basically had my parents in there and my girlfriends. By now, my girlfriends are like, we never see you. And since January, I can't even breathe. I'm so busy. And there are blessings to that and there are curses to that. So they're all helping me. They're all volunteering their time, helping me. Later, not my parents, but my girlfriends all became part of the business. I actually hired them. Amazing team that we had. So we're fulfilling out of this warehouse, and it wasn't the greatest warehouse. You got to start somewhere. I remember when USPS came out because I wanted better rates, right? I'm now sending a lot of product online and I want better rates. So they have to come visit your facility and you have to get a contract with them. And there's all these different things. So UPS came out, USPS, FedEx, they all came out and I took the best rate, got a contract. So I could then discount the shipping and offer free shipping actually. So yeah, there was a lot of crazy things that happened, but by the end of 2017, with my team, like in August, I hired a girl that was in my Bible study class, my best friends, Jimmy, her husband, I now have a team of people, and we did 5.3 million by the end of 2017. And I want to say our email was 40% of those sales.
Wow.
So we just blew it out of the water. And then I decided to really push.
Amy, I'm saying wow, but I want to stop there for just a second. That is beyond conceivable numbers to start from farmers market to go to over $5 million in sales. Like, I know that you're saying that like it's a story right now because it was a couple years ago and it's become part of the story you tell. But in the moment, how did you even resonate with that number? I mean, this was not why you went into this, right? You went into this to say, no, I'm going to heal my own autoimmune. I can't live like this anymore. I've got to figure out a healthier way of living so I don't want to die.
I never went in ever as a business. Ever did I create a product where I was like, okay, this is going to be a business. I'm going to create this. We're going to be strategic. No, it literally happened organically. And
you literally, I mean, you mentioned earlier this faith base that I think grounded you. But the other thing that I keep hearing is your values stayed intact. And I know as I'm trying to grow my online business and I work with my business coach and you said it earlier, which I loved how you said it of, when you do your work internally, your business is going to grow externally. So it's all connected, right? Just like the food we're putting in our body, we can't produce something unless we're doing our own work. Otherwise, it's inauthentic or it's going to stay stuck. And yet you also had the business savvy and you surrounded yourself by the right people to support you. So even someone who's listening right now, I think these are some of those key takeaways because again, your journey that you're sharing is twofold. One is this amazing health story, but one is this amazing success story as a business. And to stay grounded though within those values is what keeps you in alignment.
Yeah. And I definitely, and by now I'm really realizing what I call the 5 P's of my business, which is you've got to have passion. And my passion was to pay forward what healed me. And I knew there are so many other people out there. I mean, so many other people out there suffering from the same thing I had, and not just autoimmune, but depression, weight gain, pre-diabetic or diabetes. I had gestational diabetes with my last child. So I knew there was a lot of people that could benefit from a grain-free diet, but who wants to eat stuff that doesn't taste good?
Right.
And so the beautiful thing is that we created these products that are so versatile that you can use in so many different ways and put your own ingredients into them. And that's what you taste because cauliflower is so bland. I mean, there are a lot of people that don't like cauliflower that tried our product that ended up loving it. And then, so having that passion, having the right product, I mean, I am blessed that I was at the right time, at the right place at the right time, but the product needs to be authentic, right? It needs to be real. And early on I was offered, and my competitor, actually one of my competitors, I'm not going to say who, because that's not the kind of person I am, but one of my competitors took up this offer. And the offer was to me originally, I can make your product 1/3 the cost, but we have to use powdered cauliflower and fillers. And once I looked at it, and I was excited at first, I was like, yes, this will solve a lot of problems and I can lower the price of my product and then more people will have it.
Right.
But no, I couldn't eat it. It was causing inflammation. I couldn't eat it with all the fillers in it. So I stuck with fresh cauliflower, which is super expensive. And we use the whole entire head, the leaves and stems. We don't waste. Like that's a big deal to me, all the waste. And that's a whole nother story where I discovered how wasteful food can be and in production. But anyways, I stayed authentic. So your product needs to be authentic. And when you hear people say over deliver, like figure out what you can do that's going to help somebody and then over deliver. I can't stress that enough. Like figure out what you have. Everybody has something that somebody else needs, whether it's a product or a service. Everybody does. I guarantee it. Yeah. If you can make a message out of your mess, then kudos to you. So product, passion, people. So the people, again, I heard this on a podcast. I love podcasts. So kudos to you for having your own podcast.
Thank you.
Hire people that are hungry, humble, with strong emotional intelligence. Well, my friends, I felt like we're a very humble group. We all have our issues. They were hungry because they had so much, like they were treating this product as though it was their own. And then the emotional intelligence, we were a bunch of girls and one guy for a long time, and we had no drama. And so nobody has time for drama. So what I would say with that, to expand on that, is if you've got toxic people in your life and you need to, and I had toxic people at one point in my life, you need to really assess it and look at it. And they can be relatives or people that you love. I had this one person, I just loved her. I loved her to death, but she was so toxic that I had to eliminate how much time I spent with her. And I could tell my business would go stagnant when she was involved.
It's energy, right? And so that's the thing, even with the emotions and the traumas, it's energy. And it's going to get stuck if we're not allowing it to flow. And people don't see that connection. I mean, just to interject really quick on this energy piece, I love science-backed research, but I also love a good amount of woo-woo. And, when I have a client who's going to have surgery, I will pull out my book of chakras and talk about energetically, what are you healing in this energy center in your body? Because that energy is so powerful, and people don't realize the extent to which our environment, not just physical, but these relationships impact all aspects of our flow. And it's hard to stay authentic when you've got these disruptions of your flow.
Absolutely. And so I encourage people, even relatives, you can still love them, but love them from afar. And if you're thinking of going into business with a partner, go traveling with that partner. See how they treat like the wait staff and the people around you. I mean, it's eye-opening. And I look back and think, I love this person and she's doing great things in the world, but we were unequally yoked and it didn't work. And so when she was removed basically from my life, the business just soared. But the people I brought into the business, again, I think were really humble, hungry, and had strong emotional intelligence. So I love that. And the other P I talked about already was pay it forward. I really believe, and this could be service-based again or product-based, I really believe if you can pay it forward and not think about what you're going to get in return. Like, it's so hard to do that when you're trying to build a business because you're thinking, I got to make this amount of money. I got to charge this. But if you can over deliver and pay it forward, it will come back to you tenfold.
I agree 100%.
We did a lot. Like, we had a lot of Jessies in our life. Gavin, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. We sent tons of product to his family. Eleanor, and these are stories I get to talk about because the parents are like, will you share our story? Sure. And he had a brain tumor. The doctor put him on a low carb diet. He is now tumor free and thriving. Wow. He ate a ton of our product. Eleanor, this is crazy to me. She's a child type 2 diabetic. So 10 years ago, we didn't have type 2 diabetes in children, right? It was juvenile type 1 diabetes. We didn't see type 2. Type 2 is caused from, a lot of it's caused from my obesity. So now we see kids with type 2 diabetes. Eleanor, amazing story there, and so many more. And we gave a lot of product away even when I couldn't afford to. We gave it away. We supported people, and it came back to us tenfold. We never did it to share their story, but it allowed us. So I would say to your audience,
and again, it's an energy exchange, right?
Exactly. It is.
I mean, I've spoken to actually someone else who I met at the same conference that you and I met at, Emily King, and she is a money mindset. She's amazing. But one of the things that she talks about is money as energy. And, even this idea of blessing your bills, like being so grateful for not just for the ability to pay the bill, but whose livelihood is this supporting? Like it's energy. And when you create this flow of it and you do it from that place of authenticity and alignment, it's magic.
It is magic. And I didn't even know that we were doing it like that.
But again, you were staying grounded within your values. So these 5 Ps, so we've got passion. I was gonna say, I only got 4. So what's the 5th one?
So the other one is perseverance, and maybe one of the most important ones. And we briefly mentioned this before we hit record. People look at our business, and in 2008, we went from 5.3 to over 20 million. And I don't say that to brag.
No, but you should, by the way. I mean, that's a great success.
We were the largest growing food company without burning money. So we didn't burn through a bunch of money to get those sales that existed so far that I know of. So we did that through persevering, though. Our team persevered. I mean, there's a lot of highs and a lot of lows in business, right? And so when you get low, and there were times where my inflammation would attack me and I felt like I couldn't get out of bed, you got to persevere through it. You have to own the hard times. Just own it. Just realize it's like starting a diet, right? And I hate using the word diet, but it's like starting a new eating program. You know you're going to be hungry and irritable for a couple days. You just own that reality and persevere through it. The same in business. There are going to be problems. I lost $1 million in 2018 with a situation where I launched a cookbook that became a national bestseller. I was launching new products. I was just going. Instead of slowing down and really taking a breath and really owning the success we already had, I wanted to keep it going and go fast. And I was pushing my team too hard. And we made a terrible error. I made a terrible error because the buck fell on me and it cost the company a lot of money. I made a packaging error. I didn't review something close enough and the macros were wrong on our products, and a customer caught it. And we had hundreds of thousands of dollars of packaging already printed. So I cost the company a lot of money because I didn't slow down and really just take a breath. And so I persevered through that. You know, one of my team members who's no longer with us said, blame it on the packaging company. And I actually thought about doing that. And then I was like, no, I'm going to
Again, it goes back to your values. You hold completely integrity to your value set, to what's important to you and what feels in alignment.
Yep. And so I wrote an email to everybody that ever purchased our product and apologized. And I owned it because I was the last eyes on the, you have to look at all the packaging and approve it and put your initials on it. And those were my last eyes. And I skimmed it because I was so busy and wanted the success to grow fast. And so that cost the company a lot of money. Our sales tanked because this person that discovered the macros were wrong went all over social media. It takes one person, doesn't have to have a huge audience, to spread the word. And man, you start diving quickly. Yeah. And we sent the email out. I didn't know. I went on social media. I apologized. I didn't know how it was going to turn around. My competitors actually thanked me for being authentic. My competitors actually praised me in their own social media for owning the mistake. It was definitely the best decision I made by owning it and being humble. But not everybody believed that that was the route I should go. And it could have been easy to name the packaging company. But, so persevering when it feels really, really low, persevere through it, just deep breathe through it, own it. And
I want to pull that lesson out. And gosh, I just wish I could talk to you for hours. But in wrapping up in just a few moments, I want to pull that message out because I think whether or not someone is building a business or not, or someone's, trying to shift their lifestyle to be healthier and more in alignment, along with the perseverance and the sticking through the hard moments, the slow down and just breathe. I think when we get on these momentums, we want it to continue and we want it quickly. And we want to keep that trajectory or that same speed in which we've had this growth. And yet that's where we're going to have these missteps. And I teach mindfulness and meditation. And my main message is take a minute and just breathe. And I'm going to be honest and humble and say, I don't always take my own advice as well as I should. And that's my practice, right? That's why I'm teaching this, because this is what I most need. I'm not perfect at it. It's a practice. But unless we're slowing down and breathing and realigning and owning the hardships, and this is the crux of mindfulness, is being present and accepting what's arising. And people often will say to me, but Jory, how do I accept what I don't like? Well, not accepting it doesn't make it go away. And so when we can recognize maybe we're moving at a trajectory to not face what's arising, it's going to catch up somewhere.
Exactly.
It's going to catch up somewhere.
And it might manifest in your body. One of the
Exactly.
other things I would encourage your readers, if they find themselves spread really thin, I mean, I never hired a nanny. My husband cut his hours back, but we still maintained being joint parents with our kids. I still was a mom and a wife and running this business. And I was a CEO, CFO. Jimmy became the COO, but I was the CMO, which is the marketing person too. I was all these hats. And my husband had me read The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, I think. The One Thing. And it really, because when he had me read it, there was two things he did for me that were such blessings. For our 20th wedding anniversary, he hired a VA for me. And I was like, are you kidding? I don't even have time to teach a VA what I do. But if you are in a business that's growing and you can afford it, there are VAs out there that can work just a few hours a week at $15 an hour that can really do a lot of things for you.
Yes.
That, relieve some time and free up some time. So that was a blessing. But he also had me read The One Thing. And it got me back to grounding and focusing on what was really important, which was creating that product that was limited ingredients, all ingredients that you can actually pronounce, and grain-free and healthy for your community, for your people, for your customers. That was my one thing. Like, let's go back to that. Like you did the cookbook.
Come back to the basics.
Come back to the basics. And the One Thing was really helpful because I felt all over the place. And who, usually the people that, basically that I don't want to say the word harm, but the people that actually, my family took the brunt of it because I didn't want to do it to my employees that were working so hard, but my family took the brunt of it because they're the closest to me and the safest. And I knew I needed to change some things. So the VA and The One Thing was two things that really helped me. The other thing is powering through fear. Like everybody says, well, how'd you get on stages and how'd you do this? Because I've been on Dr. Oz and different shows and stages and I have fear even today. I have fear all the time. So breaking through that fear. Jim Quick says transcending, ending the trans. So you've got to visualize yourself beyond what you're fearing and see yourself doing it, and you will do it. So another book that I love too is Jim Quick's book on brain, because you know what? I don't know if Jim says this, but I'm going to say this. Eating an anti-inflammatory.
Sorry, my dog is.
We're virtual.
This is virtual world. It's like, so yeah. Okay. Sorry about the barking.
I'll wrap up here, but eating an anti-inflammatory diet clears the brain and you have a lot more clarity. But if you are going through a lot of fear, I love the book by The Alter Ego by Todd Herman too.
Yes.
You're on audio. So if you're not a book reader, those are some suggestions that have
Amy,
helped.
I'm so inspired by you, and I apologize. My dog Buddha is barking in the background. There must be. This again is the realities of virtual life. But I am so inspired by you in so many ways, and you are such a role model for that perseverance and to stay grounded and to not let the money jade you or change your integrity or change your values is something to be really admired and to be acknowledged. And it's not just these products you're creating and this business you've grown, but you are helping heal thousands, if not millions of people. And I have your products. I got so excited the first time after I met you, I saw them in the stores. And I think I bought, the veggie lasagnas and the pizza crust and, the enchiladas. And it's so amazing to see our visions actualized, especially when that wasn't what we were setting out to do.
I know, it's crazy.
And I think it's an amazing journey. And at the root of it, I'm just so happy you're healthy. Like everything else is bonus. Honestly, everything else is bonus, but you're healthy. And the people who are choosing to shift their lifestyle because of what you've been able to offer, I mean, you're changing lives at something that supersedes what doctors have been able to do. And I don't want to overinflate, the ego around it. It's more about staying in that integrity and that perseverance and that intention and that value set and believing I can do this. Because so much of it is the belief I can do this.
So much of it is just, and even when you don't believe in yourself, you've got to do affirmations. You've got to just talk yourself through it. Put sticky up, say it out loud. It seems funny and cheesy, but say it out loud. I did it before I got on this podcast.
Yes.
Like your listeners that you have are worthy. They're worthy of what they have to offer to people. They're definitely, people need what you have to offer. I promise you. And I was a straight up mess. And I'm so glad that my message is out there. I'm so glad that we've been able to create comfort food that tastes good and is healthy, and that we're really authentic. Like if you read our ingredients, it's authentic compared to others. And I'm proud of what the team has done. And I pinch myself all the time and think, wow, this has happened.
It's amazing.
It's a lot of hard work, and it wasn't
So
easy.
how can people find you? What's the best way to connect with you and your products if it's not locally in their stores?
So we are nationwide at Walmart. Whole Foods is adding SKUs, many Kroger stores. If you go on our website at www.Cali'flour, so Cauliflour Foods, FOODS.com, you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you where we are, or you can order us on e-com. Like we've got a great fulfillment center that'll send out product to you. It's amazing. So definitely go there. If you want to reach out to me personally, I answer my own DMs on Instagram. I'm getting better on Facebook. And then I also have my own website, which is heyamylacey.com, HEY. And you can go in there and you can book. I give these 15-minute slots of just me listening to your pitch and me offering you my advice, whether it's beneficial or not. It's free. And I love to hear other people, especially women, but I often help men as well, hear their business tips and not hear their business tips, hear their business and give them and offer them tips.
Right.
Because I did make so many mistakes, and I love to help people not make the same mistakes I did.
Wow. It gives me a renewed sense of inspiration as I continue to grow on my online business, and in my own health journey. So Amy, thank you so much. I know I've been so looking forward to this conversation. You have such beautiful energy and are so grounded and rooted in those values. And I keep coming back to that because I think that's what people can easily step away from as they get towards greater growth. And you just embody that at all levels. So thank you so much for a beautiful conversation today. I hope to one day cross paths again in actual real life, which would be amazing.
Have to do that. And I definitely would love to go to one of your retreats when you do it again.
Yes.
Or just go to an event together, because
that would be beautiful.
They're so powerful.
They really are.
Thank you for doing what you're doing, because you're helping so many people and you've helped a lot of people through COVID. And that is one thing that's, we all want to help people.
Yes.
It seems like COVID has definitely been a struggle for so many.
Absolutely. Well, and again, like you, I'm very service driven in those values of these tools help, and we all need the extra support. So you guys go check out, Amy Lacey, go check out her Cauliflower Foods, find her products. I know I found mine at Safeway locally here in California, and they're delicious. So it's not just, they're delicious. So I'm really excited to know you and to help inspire others on their journeys. Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Take care and be well.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat, visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.